National Chairman of People's Democratic Party, Dr. Iyorchia Ayu, yesterday reacted to his purported suspension by the executive committee of his ward in Iyorovo Gboko local government area of Benue State, saying it was of no effect as only the National Executive Committee, NEC, of the party that has the constitutional right to suspend him. But the Rivers State Governor, Nyesom Wike, has expressed support for Ayu's suspension, saying ordinarily the national chairman should have left on his own volition without prodding because he led the party to colossal failure. This is as the Benue High Court has restrained Ayu from parading himself as the national chairman of the party. In a statement by his special advisor on media and communications, Sime Monabot Swan, Ayu reiterated that as the national chairman and indeed the national officer, only the neck of the party was contained in section 57 subsection 7 could suspend him. Accordingly, Ayu said the purported suspension is therefore an exercise in futility as he derives its majority strength from gross illiteracy, ignorance, gambling, and desperation. It has only mischief and drama and propaganda value. Ayu said his purported suspension was the handiwork of those he described as some members of ESCOs are only be teleguided by political gamblers to cause mischief and nothing more. Dr. Bati, here we go again with the PDP.
You know, many years ago, when I served in the government of Nigeria, ahead of the 2015 general elections, one of the spokespersons in government at the time told me that he had information that the spirit of error had descended on the People's Democratic Party. At the time then, the ruling party of Nigeria. Well, he arrived at that conclusion that there's something called the spirit of error in Nigerian politics and that the PDP was affected at that time. He did not go into the details. But it will appear that whatever may have been a source of that hypothesis, as it turned out, the PDP lost the 2015 general elections. After that 2015 loss, the party came together and said it was going to do a review and learn the appropriate lessons. In 2019, again, for factors, there's no single factor analysis in any, analysis. But in this particular case, also in 2019, the PDP again lost. The PDP again came together as a party and said, oh, we'll do a review and we will try to see where we went wrong. At that time, I recall that this same Independent National Electoral Commission was telling the various political parties to pay close attention to internal democracy within their ranks, among their ranks, ahead of the next general election, 2023. Here we are. In 2023, the PDP has again lost the general election, at least up to this point, even if the party and the presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, have both gone to the presidential election tribunal. And then on top of this, we have this issue about the chairman of the party, Senator Dr. Iyorchia Ayu. You know, of course, that Senator Iyorchia Ayu has been a very controversial chairman, principally because of the objection to his emergence as a chairman alongside the presidential candidate of the party, who also happens to come from the northern part of the country. Objection, in this case, by Governor Nyesom Wike and his allies in the group that became known as the G5, or the expanded group that became known as the Integrity Group. And their main grounds was that one, Senator Iyorchia Ayu could not be chairman with the presidential candidate coming from the same area with him. But the party posted a vote of confidence in him. The party went into the election. Now, after the election, February 25, March 18, all of a sudden, his ward, members of the ESCO of his ward in Benue State, now suddenly show up saying that they have suspended him from the party. And also, there was another case in court at the Benue High Court, which is an ex parte injunction, on the basis of which the judge has now granted an interim injunction until the hearing of the motions, the motion on notice and the determination of same. Now, Senator Yochayu has, of course, responded. What are his arguments? One, he says in the light of Article 57, sub 7 of the PDP constitution, only the National Executive Committee of the party can suspend a member of the National Executive Committee, and that officers or committees at the ward or state level do not have such powers. As you pointed out in the introduction, he said also that this is the work of political gamblers. He has also argued that the persons involved, many of them, their signatures were forged, and that some of them were not even in town, and that certain persons have been hijacked, kidnapped, and kept in a place to engage in what he calls this mischief, this propaganda. But the court of competent jurisdiction, having granted an ex parte injunction, the option that is left for Senator Yochayu is not just to say that it was a frivolous ruling and that the suspension is also frivolous. It is for him to take the normal statutory legal steps to ensure a vacation and to defend himself and his interests. But there's a twist in the tale, which is the intervention of Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State, who, of course, is not a friend of Senator Yochayu, nor is he a friend of the presidential candidate of the party, Atiku Abubakar. He says, well, that the chairman of the party has failed terribly with the loss of the PDP in the February 25, March 18 elections. And that you will expect that the same chairman will have just stepped down or leave without any prodding. So, well, you may say sour grapes, you may say triumphalism, but I'm sure that Senator Yochayu will have his response for Governor Nyesom Wike. But what is clear is that the PDP is troubled, that the PDP still has to take a second look at its own internal workings, because already there are persons who are saying if care is not taken, Nigeria may just end up as a one-party state, given the fact that in this country, when a party wins at the center and gets the majority in the National Assembly, you'll be surprised. After the election, everybody will just go in the direction of that party, thinking that they don't want to be out of power for either 4 or the next 8 years. And if that happens, as Nigerian politicians are wont to behave, then you end up with a one-party state, which may be a derogation from the purpose, value, essence of the democratic process.
All right, so one thing is certain. The problems and the crisis that heralded the PDP leading up to the last elections definitely is continuing. And what was the bone of contention leading up to the last election? Yochayu should be removed because hitherto a zoning arrangement had been negated that led to the emergence of Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. How was the zoning arrangement negated? The contest for the presidential position in the PDP, or the presidential ticket, was open to everybody. And because of that, some people felt disgruntled. Alhaji Atiku Abubakar emerged, and when that happened, another group emerged called the G5, 5 governors, which some people will argue about their effect. Some people have argued that, the G5 was not really influential. Look at the likes of Otom, he couldn't even win his state or retain his own Senate seat. Look at the likes of Ogwai, he couldn't do the same. I mean, the only person that could still ace Rivers State, and the results are being contested as we speak, is Governor Nyesom Wike, and probably Seyi Makinde, that had a good showing, that supported another person for the presidential election, but still retained the state. So Seyi Makinde is the only outlier. So people have argued, ad nauseum as regards even the effect of the G5. But one thing is certain in all of this. Governor Wike has been able to say, they called us small boys, and now we are showing them. And see what is happening from the ward of the party chairman, Yochayu in Benue. There's a suspension. But there's a counter-narrative as regards the suspension, saying the fact that most of the members that did it under duress. Some other stories say, oh, the members, are not even the members in the first place, that they have no right to exercise the suspension and all of that. But the touchy part is that the case has been moved to court. Once this has been moved to court, the big question we should ask is, will this also go the way the Oshomole case did go? Because we remember how the Oshomole case started. And Oshomole rebuffed everybody and said, oh, they just wanted to put him out. They don't have the powers to do that. But once the case went to court, Oshomole went to court to be able to vary the case in an appeal, but he couldn't get his way in court, and he had to leave the party. So the case filed ex parte at the Benue High Court. The test of if Ayu is going to stay will be if he wins that case, and he wins in his favor and he stays on in the party. But as we speak today, he keeps talking about the NEC, but to a large extent, the NEC internally has their own problems. Some are not siding with him. And the truth has to be said, PDP did not win this election, and because of that, political machinations are going on. And some people will tell you politically that you are almost as good as a lame duck being the chairman of a party that did not win the election. It will take a lot for you to struggle. Like we all know politicians, things get exciting for them if there's something to share. If PDP had won the elections, probably they would have been looking at how to internalize and mend fences now. But being the party chairman of a party that did not win the federal elections then brings a lot of problems, because the question is, who will even fight in defense? And what is the juicy pie to share? And that's why I tell you, Nigerians, it's all about the political class in the end. Be careful. The International Criminal Court, ICC, yesterday formally acknowledged the receipt of a petition written by Professor Gideon Christian to investigate election and post-election violence in Nigeria, as well as alleged incitement by ethnic hate by Mr. Bayo Onuga, the media director of President-elect Bola Tinubu. The ICC, in its acknowledgement letter dated March 27, 2023, was signed by Mark P. Dillion, Head of Information and Evidence Unit, Office of the Prosecutor. The letter reads, the Office of the Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court acknowledges receipt of the document and letter. The petitioner Christian had in this petition titled Request to Investigate Election and Post-Election Violence in Nigeria, as well as incitements to ethnic hate by Mr. Bayo Onuga. Invited the Office of the Prosecutor to conduct an investigation into the series of ethnically motivated violence resulting in injuries and death during the just concluded presidential and governorship elections in Nigeria. He alleged that Onuga had issued a threat on Twitter warning individuals from the Igbo ethnic group that 2023 should be the last time they will be interfering in Lagos politics. Dr. Abati, your take on this.
Okay, the International Criminal Court is a creation of the Rome Statute, 2002. The International Criminal Court has 123 members who are known as state parties. Now, the whole idea of the International Criminal Court had been there since 1919, after the First World War, where the process of trying to ensure that crimes against humanity, war crimes are addressed, took a rather long process. But in 2002, we had this Rome Statute, the International Criminal Court, to deal with war crimes, crimes of aggression, genocide, crimes against humanity. Now, a major issue with this court is jurisdiction. It's supposed to be complementary to domestic courts. Where domestic courts fail, the international system kicks in. That's the first point. To the extent that here in Nigeria, when there are issues of impunity, of aggression, of violation of basic international standards, the Nigerian system does nothing. It fails. It looks the other way. We have the Electoral Act 2022. We have the Criminal Code. Some of our statutes, talk about, hate crimes, ethnic profiling, discrimination against persons on the basis of ethnicity or belief. But who enforces these laws? So I assume that Professor Christian Gideon, who has now taken his matter to the International Criminal Court, has done so because he knows that here in Nigeria, nothing will be done. In any case, how much of the Electoral Act 2022 or even the Constitution do Nigerian authorities respect? So I can understand where Christian Gideon, professor, is coming from. Number two, he says he's filing the petition on the basis of Article 15 of the Rome Statute. Article 15 of the Rome Statute simply states that individuals or groups can go directly to the ICC to report a particular matter, either by sending a letter by post or by sending an email. In other words, you don't have to be, it doesn't have to come directly from a state party. So Professor Christian Gideon has invoked that provision. 3, what is his petition? He accuses Mr. Bayo Ononuga of having stoked the embers of ethnic hate against Igbos by, making ethnic hate statements against them and asking them not to interfere in Lagos. Well, he has to provide the evidence of the consequence of that. And there are many people also who were aggrieved when Mr. Bayo Ononuga made that statement. I think, the point was made that this is a man who had written in the past against ethnic hate, who wrote against the genocide in Rwanda. And people ask the question, why would a well-informed, enlightened senior editor like Mr. Ononuga allow himself to make that kind of statement for political reasons, and then at the same time say he had no apologies? So that was probably found provocative by Professor Christian Gideon. However, the ICC does not just act because you have sent a petition. They will look at the merit of the matter, whether it fits into the legal and statutory criteria under the Rome Statute. 2, they will do their own investigation. 3, if there is a merit, the office of the prosecutor, the last prosecutor that came here from ICC was Ms. Fatou Bensouda. Yeah. They will look at the merit of the case before they will now inform the petitioner whether they will go any step further. So it's not as if it's automatic. But I think what is important in this matter is that, look, we need to enforce our own laws domestically. We don't have to wait for the jurisdiction of the ICC. The only exclusion to that is that the United Nations Supreme Security Council can grant jurisdiction to the ICC to look into matters. If we have a regime of law and order here, we don't need all of that, particularly as many African countries and other countries do not want to submit, even if they are state parties, to the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court. So it's not a straightforward matter, but the petition reminds us of a major challenge that we face in Nigeria here, about how we enforce our laws, about the rise in terms of ethnic profiling, ethnic hate, and issues here that we need to still address beyond the election.
I mean, one thing is certain. It is crystal clear that our judicial system needs a lot of work on it. And that's why you're seeing what is happening. In all of this, the state security authorities did nothing about the ethnic hate that was going on. All they kept on doing was to issue messages, disclaimers, cool tension. No, action needs to be taken. The reason why you have repeat performance of illegality and corruption in our electoral system is because before now, action wasn't taken. Only to think a couple of days ago, INEC released some money to be able to prosecute cases, to defend the results that were challenged all over the country. But the question is, how much is set aside to fight electoral offenses? How much is set aside to punish people that have done things that are very bad? Apart from even that message that was tweeted by Mr. Bayo Ononuga, Mr. Bayo Ononuga went further and said all sorts, called people son of, words I can't even say on television, said all sorts, called people son of the bee. We can't have a society where everybody runs amok, especially when they are senior citizens in the society and they should take that way. So a lot of people have commented and said, good one, also Christian. But taking it to the ICC, we all know how these things even take time. Yes, there's been some kind of reforms in the ICC now. The new Prosecutor General, Mr. Khan, has said that he would do things better. He will ensure more cases are prosecuted. But the truth has to be said. If we cannot look within, then how can we look without? If we want people from other countries of the world to respect us, then how can we not solve our internal crises? And also, there is a way leading to all of this. You remember what happened in Kenya just after the elections. And now the former president of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, had to be taken to the ICC. We all remember that case. And it was because of the violence and the ethnic hate that was perpetrated after the elections in Kenya that led to us here setting up the Peace Commission to be able to rein political actors in from all sorts of ethnic hate and bigotry in the electoral process. But when you look at it, wasn't the agreement these politicians signed, wasn't it violated by them themselves? They signed to a peace accord, but they became violent afterwards. So if we want to build a country, let us build it by making our laws work for ourselves in this country. And that's why I keep saying political actors must calm things down. Kulu, 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 temper. We have a country to build.